Hey everyone, today's something a little different. I wanted to know what would happen if you used that sims.spawn testing cheat to make over 100 sims, and just how well the game would run if you moved a whole colony of them in with Thorn Bailey to justify his massive house. How would the group behave? How many puddles on Thorn's floor? And how bugged out could it get? It had some funny but disgusting consequences. After making all the sims, we had our first taste that the game can't let this many sims think at once. Sims file off to go to the television one at a time rather than in a herd. Some sims end up stuck for a few sim hours before they get to take an action. I tried this with 100 sims twice, then 80 to see if it would ease up a bit and let them all think at once. 80 seemed to go a bit better, but did not improve sim survival rates. Simulation lag fix mods didn't do much in this case either, it's just too extreme. You can see odd behavior right away as Sims in Thorn's living room are having a war for which channel to watch, constantly flipping to take control of the TV. Sims actually get in line for the water slide. I was actually surprised by that, and another group gathers at the end to watch the Sims doing tricks. It is somewhat a shame the game can't handle this many Sims, because it looks like such a lively party, doesn't it? Kinda looks like a line at a water park. Some of the Sims aren't reacting regardless, so I spawn a monsoon. That's what you do in these situations. I attempt to get everyone inside where I hope they'll fan out and do different things. It gives us an idea how many can really act at once and if the other Sims are really stuck or not. The footage of a bunch of Sims running for shelter was pretty cool, but the Sims engine craps out and you see that a big chunk are simply standing there in Thorn's living room / kitchen / sitting room / dining room. They're all frozen waiting for others to do things in that room. I discover a couple of methods of getting activity going again. I'm able to pause the game, wait for notifications to catch up for a minute or two, and unpause, then get a brief injection of real-time play. It takes a while, and it's also at risk of crashing because this is the most dangerous moment when you're in the middle of this. Sims 4 can run at like 1 frame every 5 seconds, and it shows a blank white screen with 0% GPU usage at those times. It'll gradually come back and give you control again if you're patient. It gets going eventually and gets back around 30 frames a second. Sims finally mingle throughout the house, with them standing around evidently peeping on a girl using the monsoon as an opportunity to take a shower. I admire her as somehow only one of them decided to do this. The sun begins to shine once more because I cheated it that way, and they join one another for fun on the water slide and resume the channel war on Thorn's awful television. Size doesn't always matter, kids. Sometimes it's the density of your pixels. But an ill omen soon weaved its way throughout our subjects, as a cascade of bladder failures reached out to drench Thorn's beautiful hardwood floors. Sims would actually get to bladder failure in 0 minutes, but the engine would put them in line to piss themselves. I found this pretty funny. A sign of hope for some Sims who manage to outwit the engine and enjoy some food poolside, as they will likely be strong enough to outlast the others and breed a new, smarter Sim. It's every man for himself, survival of the fittest, battling the game like this. Things turn dark as a Sim somehow catches fire making an egg sandwich. With so many friends around to help, you're sure to get coated in foam.
Oh my god!
In their haste to find a path out of the crowd, Sims forget what collision even is, and they routed right through walls and counters to escape the fire. This turned out to be a fortunate way to react to a fire, as a second time we were not so lucky in my other colony.
Well, there's a fire. He's not reacting to it yet. Oh my god. Just walk through the counters.
A fire started, I repaired the stove, and they immediately set it ablaze again.
Thorn! Thorn! Man, you're on fire.
Because they were all gathered round for the first fire and in line to take an action, they were stuck waiting on a turn to extinguish themselves.
Uh-oh. Getting worse. Oh, no. I've never seen such a bad fire. Oh, Thorn's dead. Well, that was tragic.
The fire quickly spread throughout the crowd and we lost 5 members to the incident before I took control. I saved 15 lives that day. After a safety review, I made the call not to repair the oven a second time. No oven for you, but you still get to have a nice grill. Back to the pointless narrative in Colony 1, the Sims are all stuck reacting outside to the fire that's been gone for a good 20 minutes real time, and won't seem to get unstuck. I risked pausing for a while again to try to salvage the situation. I spent some time alt-tabbed on Reddit to get freaked out by the world news, and when a panic attack's over, I go to wash my hands. When I'm back, the notifications, headline effects, and sim queues seem to have finally caught up. When I unpause, the game miraculously comes to life with all those Sims outside finally doing something. Unfortunately, they now have little hope. Sims 4 is now a turn-based strategy game, and this isn't good. See, they get a turn to animate or do something, right? And they use it to complain about how nasty or hungry they are, or collapse onto the hard ground. The sound of flesh smacking against concrete is all too real in this game, and it makes me wince every time. The engine is not made for this, and most of these buggy behaviors aren't Max's fault. But I do have to say, it impressed me that in only one attempt at this, did the game actually crash when every sim was thinking at once. I think some number between 40 and 60 sims is likely to work if your hardware were good enough. I'm near the edge of what's available though, so there isn't much hope of better, which I'll explain why later. This sim seems to have beat the odds and made herself some vegetable burgers, but she doesn't seem too happy about it for some reason. Maybe it's the Impossible Whopper. I don't notice until I trigger another monsoon, but out back things have gotten pretty bad. There is much pee in the ooh, and a lot of sims had ditched their nasty clothing all around it. I admit I forgot to place a hamper on the lot. I seriously doubt they use it though. No one uses the washing machine or feeds the hamster after all. I make a half-hearted attempt to order a maid at some point, but I never noticed one working and I got billed anyway. The entire colony is now embarrassed, they've wet themselves, and I just don't understand why. In a society where everyone pees themselves, you would be more embarrassed to be the one to hold it in, right? I'm sure it would become some kind of fashion statement. I mean, people got surgery on their butts because King Louis had to have one. In the kitchen, this absolute legend is not only clipping through counters, but making an effort to do some dishes while others stand around in their own puddles. I didn't check upstairs a while, and, well, let's just say that everything has gone very badly. There are sims standing around waiting for a turn at the bed. You'd think they would give up this whole, ew, I can't sleep with this weirdo thing they have going on and just crash anywhere with a pillow, no matter how bad the other guy stinks. But no, be uptight about it. Judging by the situation in Thorn's awful living room, some of the sims have the sense to get some shut-eye, but things are getting pretty desperate now. There were moments like this when we got a glimpse into the colony's future, as the subject stands outside, despite the freezing temperature, eating a delicious desiccated pork sickle in his swimming trunks, braving the elements for this. Thorn does what I love most about him, hyping the crowd under my command, the reason I like him so much. Shortly after, he will fall victim to his tired eyes and pass out inside the wall. Similar to the bladder failures, cascades of sims crashing to the floor to sleep are next. This is where I'd say every attempt like this will lead. Once this happens, it's game over for the vast majority of the colony, as we'll soon see. It is at this point I realize that for some time now, the entire colony has either been embarrassed or uncomfortable. Not one sim is happy. Not a single one has managed to properly care for themselves under the circumstances. A sim actually dies to the heat, and I'm not even sure how it's possible this colony doesn't have a sauna and it's springtime. I guess they got stuck in the wrong clothing. I didn't mean to do this to Thorn, but Octavia dies in the heat too. Sims are all forced to go stand and mourn over them, making their situation that much worse. Also, this kid probably should have been taken away some time ago, and I kind of felt bad for him. When Grim inevitably comes, he's just like, screw this, I'm out of here, it's the weekend. This is your problem. Somehow or another, I don't know why, a sim ends up dying of embarrassment during this time as well. The Sims mourning, even though others just died in the heat, this is why the population will be decimated in time. See, after a point, Sims will be using their opportunity to do something productive or escape mortal danger, on instead complaining about how tired, bored, or grimy they are, moaning about how they have no energy left. A friend died, my mom died, and they're literally standing there starving to death. As things to moan about go, that's a pretty valid complaint, but things are bad, so you've got to take action. Sims just don't know how to prioritize. You can't whine, you gotta try to grill you a nice hot dog or some of them vegetable burgers that are all the rage these days. I want to try Beyond Meat, but the Impossible Whopper wasn't worth $2 extra. Anyway, this is the moment that ruins everything, because with Sims tied up complaining and collapsing over and over again, they won't be able to take care of themselves. They just can't do it. I discover I have to be the Reaper and use Reset Object on the dead, or else there are always bodies on the lot restricting me from build mode and saving. Neither of which are easy to do with 100 Sims on the lot. It's just worth noting this is a way to get the Sims to stop reacting to the dead. They're supposed to be reaped, you know. Thorn mourns Octavia in his own way. They threatened to take the kid, and they probably should have done that when he got named Orange. The sun really shines a lot on how disgusting things are out back. It's got its own glow. It's later dedicated an EPA Superfund site. Soon enough, we have a death from starvation due to a lack of self-care. Every nearby sim comes to this one spot to mourn, and it's pretty wild to see it and hear it in my headset. It's horrible hearing the dozens of cries, so I will definitely quiet it for you all. I discovered that many Sims actually are already dead from starvation. They're like Schrodinger's sim, dead and alive at the same time. They are behind in the queue and haven't yet decided to do their death animation, but will when they get to it. First, they have to mourn the sim that just passed, no matter how far away they are in Thorn's stupid house. Like some kind of plague, death by hunger begins its way through the colony. Sims get to where they will use their opportunity to move, to mourn the dead instead of care for themselves. They really queue up to go witness death over and over, and it causes the whole herd to be doomed. Look at them flocking. Sims drop like flies in both colonies I play. I am not kidding when I say that I saw 50 hunger deaths in a row. How or why? Because only about 20 of the 80 in that colony managed to get some food in 3 full sim days. And yes, there was a lot of food left on the table. Again, they have every opportunity to take care of themselves. The world is just too eventful for them, and they just make bad choices. Because somebody went and made it a blizzard outside. One that just doesn't render right during spring in Del Sol Valley. The first sim to die outside of hunger puts the colony in a new type of danger. Grim shows up again, and I beg of him, are you going to reap these sims or am I going to do your job? And then he just leaves. The Sims are a sobbing mass that pees everywhere it goes at this point. It's really wild to watch. I really didn't think this could happen, but one sim actually gets me an achievement for the Polar Bear Club as she jumps in the pool during a blizzard during all this craziness. Sims now start to freeze to death outside, which attracts other Sims, which leads to more freezing. They just don't know how to not get involved when people die on the same property. They do this horrible march back and forth among the bodies in line, and occasionally one of the mourners drops for one reason or another. I will now be calling this the death choo-choo. Eventually, one freezes in the pool. They couldn't decide to get out in time. Every time Grim pays us a visit, he just vanishes again without answering. A couple dozen more Sims fall to their own stupidity. The engine is still incapable of thinking for so many Sims, even with many out of the picture. I think the dead take up resources actually, and this will not lift until I start doing Grim's job. But this guy, he gets it, and another Sim manages to seal her fate. She will live if she can find a place to sit. Eat! No, do it! Eat! No, eat! Eat the damn raisins! Eat it! I screamed at her a lot while she did this, and the payoff came if you consider that to be getting up and walking around with it. At one point, she makes a whole lap around the house in a morning line, ends up sitting to try the pool again. Could you perhaps just eat the salad? You're in real danger. Just anywhere. At some point, I take matters into my own hands and tell her to eat the one in her inventory because she forgot it existed after a time. For some reason, to cap off my suffering after watching these shenanigans for 2 straight hours, with a full 45 minutes of Death Choo-Choo, the welcome wagon shows up out of nowhere. I end up doing this because I wanted to confirm 100% that Sims 4 makes usage of 4 CPU cores. It needed to be for sure capped out, and this did that trick. Admittedly, it did the trick 5 minutes in, but I couldn't stop watching. See, Sims 4 will only use 4 cores no matter how many you have to throw at it. More is good for being able to multitask without losing performance. In general, having something closer to 5 GHz is better than having one with many cores clocked at more like 3.5. Because it can only use 4 cores no matter how fast. It's better off with 4 high-speed cores. Hopefully this makes sense to a lot of you. Plenty of you will know this. If you want to multitask, you want at least a couple more, if not several, depending on the job. I'm hoping the next sim game takes advantage of multiple threads better, so I would definitely advise on having at least a few spare. More and more games should use well over 4 cores as time goes on, because this is what the processor manufacturers are offering us. We're stuck at this speed and expect more and more cores tacked on to help make up for it. Anyway, thank you for watching perhaps my most pointless ever video, but I had fun watching it, and I thought if it were trimmed down, some people would be interested in seeing this. I had to watch it in real time, so there's that. Alright, have a great day folks, thanks again.